I was like, okay, this is a thing that I really don't want to have missed it. So I'll like invest a little bit. So I bought some Bitcoin in like 2013. When there was that last hype cycle in 2017, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not really focused on it. So I'm going to invest in other people's funds that are investing in crypto. So I invested in a fund that does crypto, and they're like doing really well.
I don't know if it was your Mark Cuban podcast, but you were talking about that you wanted to, or you had planned to do like a 7-figure investment in Bitcoin like a few years ago or something like that. And you moved it in.
Yeah, I had it funded. I had the Coinbase account funded, and I was going to do it at, Bitcoin was at like 4,000 or 5,000. And I was kind of like, what am I doing? Like I was a little distracted, and then I didn't do it. And, it's all right. Yeah, I should have invested because I do feel like it was an asymmetric upside bet, but the most I could lose was this, $1 million. But I feel like there was a 50x in crypto, 50 or 100x in the price of Bitcoin. And so I should have, like there was asymmetric upside, or like compared to the potential downside of the bet. So it was a good bet. It's going to repeat itself. It's going to be back up at some point.
Yeah.
So I should just invest now, which was right. That was the right thinking. When I was working on my last company, I was very distracted by what was going on in the company. And I missed all sorts of investments that I should have been making, which is okay. Well, it's like poker. You have to just say, if I played right, then it's like, no matter what happened with the cards, then it's like, I did a good job. I don't know if you guys played poker,
but
like you have to just say, like, as long as I did the right thing from it doesn't matter how the cards fell. It's just about how my play is. And I think that with investing, it's the same thing. You have to just say, like, did I make the right decision with the right amount of information that I had?
Yeah, it's like making high percentage bets over and over and over in the long term.
In the long run, you're gonna win. And like, do I have like a good strategy that I believe in?
Yeah,
What do you think about Bitcoin now that it's at? Are you
well, so I should say, like, I should buy more Bitcoin, but I have that, like, oh, I didn't buy it early enough, so now it's, but I do think there's like still 10x upside in Bitcoin. So you should buy more Bitcoin. But now there's an emotional attachment to, like, oh, well, I didn't buy it enough at the early enough time or whatever. I actually don't feel bad about any of it, except for, because, like, I don't think before 2013, I bought some in 2013, and before 2013, I was like, there was no evidence necessarily to me that there was going to be traction in Bitcoin. So in 2013, I bought some, and I think that was a really smart move, because I was like, this is, I want to, and that was more based on, like, if I buy it now, then if it does work, then I'm not going to have FOMO, right? Then in 2017, it like went up a lot, and I was like, I'm a genius. And then it crashed, and I was like, I should buy more. And that's the one where I feel like I made an investing mistake. And I think it's still a good investment. The problem for most people, like, the problem with investing is you have too much control, and you go on tilt, and you don't execute your strategy, right? You become emotional because you're like watching the numbers like at an increment that you shouldn't be making investment decisions on, right? Like, some people might have like some sort of, some professional investors might have some like short-term trading strategy or like arbitrage strategies that make sense to execute like every day. But for most people, they should be like looking at the market every day. They should be just averaging in, they're like buying to this position. They should just average into that position over time, and then just hold it for a long period of time, especially because there's a lot of tax benefits for holding. I mean, not crypto necessarily, but for like stocks, right? There's a tax benefit for holding things for long periods. So you can get long-term capital gains. So most of the time you shouldn't be making short-term investment decisions. The problem is that people like don't obey that, right? They get in and they're emotional. They're like, oh, I made so much money. And then they don't like have, where they, they're worried about losing it. So they sell out of their position, like, realize their gain sooner. And that's a mistake. And so, it's like Coinbase as an example. It's like, if you invested in Coinbase and you invested in Bitcoin actually had performed better over that period of time. But Coinbase was like illiquid. So it's an enforced hold over the 10-year period or 9-year period. And the good part about that is, like, you couldn't sell, right? Like, you couldn't make a decision to sell. And so for me, the strategy is this something that's my primary interest and occupation, right? Like, so startups is a good example where like I have a lot of domain specific knowledge about startups. I have a competitive advantage in startups. So people, I have a reputation. People want me to invest in their startup. So that's an area where I have like an advantage, and I know a lot. So everything in startups, like I can, be the primary, like be investing, and that's my primary, that's like my job, right? Whereas with crypto, it's like I'm not the primary, I'm not watching it every day. I'm just investing in someone else, and that's their job, and I'm paying them, part of the upside in order to, for their expertise. And I think a lot of people have a lot of ego where they're like, oh, I don't want to pay this other person when I could do it, but you're paying them to be the expert, and I think that's with investing, you want to focus on the thing that's your core competency. I mean, it applies to everything, with everything, you want to focus on the thing that you enjoy doing that's your core competency, and everything else you want to outsource to somebody else. Let's say you're Bill Gates and you're trying to get rid of malaria across the world, which is an incredibly amazing, noble, beautiful goal. But that is not affecting his daily life. Like if he saves 1,000 lives or 10,000 lives or 1,000,000 lives, that's really great. He might feel good, but it's not, your life as a human being is the same as when you were merely a millionaire or even just a 100,000-aire or whatever. And your life is, human beings do the same thing. You like get up, eat breakfast, spend time with your family, work out, go to your job. It's the same thing. And I guarantee you, I know because I've seen it and I've looked for it. If you are super rich, you're just doing the same things, maybe in a slightly nicer location, in a much nicer house with like maybe better tasting food. So, but it's not that different. It's like people we haven't found a way to really transcend the human condition through the application of money and resources. And so it's just like you have like, now your baseline is I live in this nice of a house, this big of a house with this much food, and I pay a guy to like clean it or wash my dishes or take my car to get serviced or whatever, but it's just not that different. And there's always an opportunity. There's always an opportunity, no matter who you are, to be looking at the next guy who did slightly better and be like, oh, I wish I was like that guy. Then that would be the key. If I got to where that guy's at, then I'd finally be happy.
I consider myself a framework thinker, and that just means that take in the experiences that I have and then try to categorize them into and kind of quantify them, or maybe create frameworks through which I can explain them to other people. And I think that's important because it's just a way to communicate ideas. So if you think about things in frameworks, frameworks are usually ways to generalize the evidence or anecdotal experience that we have into ideas that are easily communicatable to other people. And as an entrepreneur, I think it's really important because you're trying to create like communication and explaining people like what's the mission, why is it important, what are the ways that we're attacking this mission or accomplishing this mission. Those are the motivational tools you have to galvanize a team to accomplish a certain goal or objective, which is what you're doing as a founder. So,
do you think there are any misconceptions about the tech world and like being a tech founder?
Well, today people are not, being a tech founder has gone, you've gone from like the hero to the villain in the media narrative. So I think there's a lot of sentiment maybe in the popular media of like the tech founders are trying to do something to the world. They're like, trying to get one by on the world to like enrich themselves. And I don't think that's true. I think people who are founding companies are just people like everyone else, and they have a limited window into, they've created apps or companies or businesses, maybe sometimes with like downstream effects that like they didn't know, or other people didn't, nobody knew. And I think there's maybe a little bit of a misconception of like malintent, where to some extent these are like, this whole, kind of digital transformation of the economy has just been evolving organically, and any given founder is really only a very small piece of that.